Roll call.
Naker, Prince, Tao, Tolbert, Busuri, Jalali Nelson, Council President Bren Moen. 6 present, 1 absent, being Councilmember Prince.
Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Consent agenda items 1 through 16 are before you for your consideration.
Is there anything on the consent agenda that should be taken separately? Seeing none, Mr. Tao moves approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The consent agenda is adopted. Item number 17, Resolution 19-1548, honoring the historic Ham Building on its 100th birthday.
And welcome, Ms. Naker.
Thank you. This is a very special occasion. It's not every day that we get to celebrate a 100th birthday, and it's especially not every day we get to celebrate a 100th birthday of a building, and it is the centennial of the Ham Building in downtown St. Paul tomorrow. And so I'd like to invite Christelle Hansen and Tim Dwyer to come on up while I present this resolution, property manager and president, respectively. Welcome. So this resolution is honoring the historic Ham Building on its 100th birthday. Whereas the historic Ham Building is turning 100 years old on September 12, 2019, after 10 decades of standing proudly on the corner of St. Peter and 7th Place Mall in downtown St. Paul. And whereas the building's rich history started during World War I, when William Ham, owner of Ham's Brewery, saw an opportunity to expand the empire by financing the development of a partially completed structure on the site of the current Ham Building. And whereas what had initially been intended to be a department store became a 6-story office and retail building, housing an office for the Ham Brewery, trendy retail boutiques, as well as the Upper Midwest's most costly and ornate movie theater at the time. And whereas the building attracted all types of tenants and activities, including some that played on the other side of the law in the 1930s, this was St. Paul after all. And whereas the Ham Building is one of the remaining legacies of St. Paul's prominent Ham family and a longtime cultural hub for the city, and whereas the Ham Building is now listed on the National Register of Historic Places and continues to be a major attraction in the heart of St. Paul, with many tenants that we all know and love, such as Meritage, Park Square Theater, Jaime's Haberdashery, Landmark Jewelry, and more. And whereas on September 12th, the public is invited to gather, and hopefully it will not be raining, at the Ham Building to celebrate the significance of the past 100 years and toast to the next 100, now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of St. Paul congratulates the owners and tenants of the Ham Building on the building's 100th anniversary and thanks them for their contributions to our city.
Thank you, Councilmember Naker. To the City Council President Emmy Brennan, Councilmember Rebecca Naker, and all members of the St. Paul City Council. We are most appreciative of your goodwill and presentation of this resolution in honor of our centennial celebration. Since 1919, when the historic Ham Building opened its doors, this building has been the edifice to many prosperous businesses, from law firms to doctors, insurance companies, to live stage theater, jazz clubs, 5-star restaurants, and of course an array of iconic retail merchants. We've been blessed also by an 83-year-old pet shop. It is our intent to continue our legacy for another 100 years to serve the citizens and guests of this beautiful historic city, office and retail exchange, along with all of the St. Peter Street businesses and neighbors. Special thanks again to the council member, Rebecca Naker, who graciously supported the Ham Building Centennial Celebration Tribute. Thank you.
So wonderful. Thank you.
Move approval.
Ms. Naker moves approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 18, Resolution 19-1566, honoring Dr. Malka Lauderstein Goodman, for her contributions to the city of St. Paul.
Mr. Tolbert.
We're going to have some people join me if you don't mind. Dr. Goodman.
Hello again.
Yeah. Let me read it, and then we'll pass it, and then we'll have you speak.
All right, just a few words.
Well, we'd be honored. Whereas Malka Loderstein Goodman was born on September 13th, 1929 in the town of,
Sedgera,
thank you, in what was then Palestine and is today Israel, and whereas Malka's parents fled Russia due to pogroms against the Jewish people and arrived in Israel penniless, and whereas Malka served in the Israeli army, the Haganah, in the War of Independence and rose to the rank of lieutenant, and whereas Malka traveled to Bologna, Italy, to study medicine and met her future husband, Ernest Goodman, who was also studying medicine in Bologna, and whereas Malka moved to St. Paul, where her husband, Ernest Goodman, had been born and had made her home in St. Paul from 1953 to this day, I'll add in Ward 3.
correct.
And whereas Malka earned her medical degree from the University of Minnesota and completed additional training to become a psychiatrist, and whereas Malka practiced child, adolescent, and family psychiatry for 35 years in St. Paul, contributing to the mental health and success of thousands of St. Paul families, and whereas Malka and her husband sheltered unwed mothers who were ostracized in their own communities and counseled and provided them with free medical care. And whereas Malka and her husband have given generously to the St. Paul Jewish community, including the Jewish Community Center and the Temple of Aaron, and to the arts, particularly to the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra. Whereas Malka donated her time to mentor and teach counselors, providing free walk-in counseling services, and to this day still volunteers in the St. Paul Shalom Home. And whereas Malka has been an inspiration for her 3 children, 6 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren, and many friends. And whereas Malka has lived a long and productive life, contributing to the health and cultural richness of St. Paul and community. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the city of St. Paul honors the life and contributions of Malka Loderstein Goodman. And be it further resolved, that St. Paul offers its sincere congratulations and good wishes to Malka Loderstein Goodman, on her 90th birthday. Mazel tov.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. Councilmember Tolbert, thank you so very much. Very sweet. I appreciate it enormously. I'm just going to say a few words. As you heard, I came to St. Paul in 1953. This was a very sleepy, not too interesting a city. I came here to go to school, but when I think about St. Paul as we know it today, it's very interesting. My granddaughters moved west, but they come to St. Paul because there is a children's museum and a science museum and the history museum and the natural history museum. Did I miss a museum? No, maybe I did. And of course, Ordway. Ordway is a very, very important part of our life. Our lives, actually. We attended operas and concerts and Broadway. And so St. Paul has evolved from a sleepy city into a very vibrant city. Construction all over the place. The population has changed. We have a rainbow diversity in population now in St. Paul. It was not so in 1953. We have a black mayor, which is rather stupendous. So I would like to thank you very much. I'm moved. This is unexpected, and thank you.
Mr. Tolbert moves approval. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 19, Resolution 19-256, amending the Forest Site Zoning and Public Realm Master Plan with design standards for use with the Ford zoning districts.
This public hearing was laid over from last week, so this is a public hearing. Is there any? This one is?
It was already held.
Oh, and we closed the public hearing. All right.
Sorry.
Mr. Tolbert, I believe, moves approval. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 20, final adoption of ordinance 19-54, amending chapters 60, 61, 64, and 66 of the Legislative Code pertaining to establishing forward zoning districts, site plan review for forward zoning districts, sign regulations for forward zoning districts, references to the forward site zoning and public realm master plan, and minor and major amendments to the forward site zoning and public realm master plan.
And this is before us for final adoption. Is there anything further on this item? Seeing none, Mr. Tolbert moves approval. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The ordinance is adopted. Item number 21, final adoption of ordinance 19-55, granting the application of the Housing and Redevelopment Authority to rezone property at 659 Otsego Street from RT1 two-family residential to R4 one-family residential, and amending Chapter 60 of the Legislative Code pertaining to the zoning map.
This is before us for a final adoption. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, I move approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The ordinance is adopted. Item number 22, final adoption of ordinance 19-56, amending Chapter 409 of the Legislative Code to raise the age of persons allowed to enter liquor stores from age 18 to 21.
And this is also before us for final adoption. Is there any final thoughts on this? Seeing none, Mr. Tao moves approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The ordinance is adopted. Item number 23, resolution public hearing 19-313, approving the application of Selby Avenue Jazz Festival for a sound level variance for amplified sound for the Selby Avenue Jazz Festival on September 14th at 934 Selby Avenue.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to this item? Seeing none, Mr. Tao moves to close the public hearing and approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted. And public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item number 24, resolution public hearing 19-310, approving the application of compassionate action for animals for a sound level variance for amplified sound on September 15th, at 120 Harriet Island Road for the Twin Cities Veg Fest 2019.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to this item? Come on up. Hi there. You're the first person
Hi.
to speak at a public hearing today, so just let us know your name and where you live before you start testifying.
Okay. My name is Laura Matana. I'm the Executive Director of Compassionate Action for Animals, and my home is in Minneapolis.
Great.
But we are delighted to have the festival in St. Paul at Harriet Island, and I just wanted to let you know that it is now the biggest plant-based or vegan festival in the Midwest, so I think St. Paul can be very proud of that. Many people are coming from out of town as well as many St. Paul businesses, so it's a real economic development boon, I think, for the city and the region. And I would like to invite all of you to come. It's a great chance to just, sample some food, check it out, hear some great music, and see what you think. So happy to answer any questions that you have, but really appreciate your support of the festival.
Wonderful. Does anyone have questions about the sound level variance or otherwise? All right, thank you very much. Sounds like a blast. Anyone else for the public hearing? Seeing none, Ms. Naker moves to close the public hearing and approve. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion prevails.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item number 25, resolution public hearing 19-318, approving the revised application of Twin Cities in Motion for 9 sound level variances for amplified sound at the State Capitol Complex and 8 other locations from Mississippi River Boulevard and Marshall, east along Summit Avenue to Selby Avenue and State Capitol on October 5th and 6th during the Medtronic Twin Cities Marathon.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to this item? Seeing none, Ms. Nelson moves to close the public hearing and approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item number 26, resolution public hearing 19-314, approving the application of Iglesia Cristiana Cedros del Libano for a sound level variance for amplified and live music on September 14th at 1003 Arcade Street and 1000 Walsh Street for the 15th anniversary.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to this item? Seeing none, Mr. Basuri moves to close the public hearing and approve. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion prevails.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Legislative hearing consent agenda items 27 through 124 are before you for your consideration.
Good afternoon, Ms. Mormon.
Good afternoon, Council President Brenmo and council members. There are 3 items where I know people are here to testify. Those are items number 36, 77, and 92.
Item number 36, RLH TA 19-654, ratifying the appealed special tax assessment for property at 957 Cook Avenue East.
This is a tax assessment for a garbage hauling assessment, or for garbage hauling during the first quarter of 2019. The amount of the assessment is $117.80. You did see the appellant, Mr. Maslow, several months ago with respect to his assessment for the fourth quarter billing. He opted not to have a legislative hearing for this particular assessment. At the time you saw him before, my recommendation was to reduce the assessment. He has a duplex. He lives in one of the units, but does not rent the other one, kind of lives in the house by himself. And so it made sense to treat this as a single family home. And so my recommendation was to reduce the assessment. The council did take that action, and the assessment that you're looking at now is for one large can. I really don't have much more to add because I didn't have a legislative hearing on this item.
Thank you. All right. As we move into the legislative hearings, just to let people know, we have 5 minutes for the public hearing. So we'll invite appellants up to speak to their item. So come on up. This is a public hearing. If there's anyone here to speak to this item. And again, same thing, if you just let us know who you are, where you live, kind of.
I'm Greg Maslow, 957 Cook. Is that the one we just did? It's hard for me to hear you. Am I on the right one? Okay. I'm here again basically to say they didn't tip the first can until April 1st of this year. And I don't feel it's right at all that I have to pay for those other months, that I never used it, never wanted it. And I guess I have a question. If this is all put to the side by the Supreme Court, what's going to happen? And another question I have is, where can I get a copy of what's going to be on the ballot?
Anything else on your assessment?
No.
Okay. Well, this is what we're here to look at, and we can certainly get you a copy of the language for the referendum. It was passed by this council approximately 1 month ago, so we can get you a copy of that. And presumably your council member can follow up with you on that item. And then as far as speculating about what the Supreme Court is outside of the context of this hearing and something I'm not equipped to talk about. So if there's nothing else on your appeal, then we're going to close the public hearing.
Okay, but I just want to see what's going to be on the
Okay,
ballot.
we can get you a copy of that, no problem. Mr. Basuri moves to close the public hearing. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion prevails. Mr. Basuri.
I move the recommendation of the hearing officer.
All right. Mr. Basuri moves the recommendation of the legislative hearing officer. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 77, RLH VO 19-35, appeal of Narayan Agarwal, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, to a notice of condemnation unfit for human habitation in order to vacate at 275 McKnight Road South.
Ms. Mormont.
Council President, council members, this is an appeal of a condemnation in order to vacate the premise at 275 McKnight, which is a strip mall at the corner of Lower Afton and McKnight. I have a photograph up of the gas station Superette that is on the corner there. And then I have a second photograph of the balance of the strip mall. here another angle that shows, and these photos are in your record as well, that's in front of you. There are obviously a number of businesses and also a mosque that are affected by this condemnation. It is due to a lack of sewer service. There was a failure in the sewer, the private sewer, in early August, late July, and subsequently when a contractor went in to do some examination of the situation, they had asked water to turn off the water so an assessment could be done of what sort of wetness in the ground was associated. Was it a water leak or was it related to a sewer failure? And frankly, they needed to assess, was it a crack in the sewer, a break in the sewer, or was it a plugged sewer? Water was happy, of course, to go out and turn off the water for this to be tested, but without having a functional private sewer, they would not turn the water back on again. There has to be some place for the gray water to go. It can't just go into the ground. So we have then a situation where we have no functional sewer or water at this location. It was the end of August by the time the Department of Safety and Inspections was informed of the conditions at this strip mall. At that time, they immediately dispatched inspectors who wrote a condemnation order to vacate that was effective immediately on August 30th. The owner appealed that condemnation, and I conducted legislative hearings both last week on September 3rd and then yesterday on September 10th. So I spent several hours in the hearing room between those 2 days, heard from the owner, heard from city staff, heard from the business owners, heard from the mosque about what their concerns were, and their concerns are numerous. Several of the businesses closed immediately at the beginning of August with a lack of sewer and water, namely the restaurants, but also the dry cleaner, and other businesses have been kind of limping along. Things have been especially difficult, well, obviously difficult, but I would say especially difficult once the condemnation placard goes on the door. They are looking at a future of having to reestablish their business after having nothing going on there. They have a long road ahead of them, and some of them are in dire straits, and that was discussed and is in the record in front of you. I can show you a picture from inside the superette, and that you can kind of see through the plastic sheeting, the shelving in the mini mart kind of area there, and that is a hole in the floor that goes down to the sewer, and there's a ladder there. Staff do report that it's not a properly supported hole in there, but also clearly that is an unsafe condition just to exist in its own right, to have exposed sewer area to an area that has grocery and a butcher counter in it, frankly. The owner in his appeal was seeking to allow some of the businesses to continue to operate while repairs would be undertaken and eventually completed. So the question was, they've been operating in the month of August prior to DSI becoming aware of the situation and operating with the benefit of a porta potty behind the strip mall and people going across the street to use the holiday station. Really, really difficult circumstances. There was a second porta potty which was positioned also in the back, but it was on an incline, and so I don't think that could have been considered a useful facility. When I looked at this, after hearing from everybody, my conclusion to recommend to you at that time was to deny the appeal, but in hopes that the owner would come forward very quickly, as he testified he was going to do, very quickly with plans to fix the sewer and get the water turned back on again, that if a business had a sanitation plan that they wanted to bring forward for review, I would be happy to look at that and then on a temporary basis allow for reopening. A sanitation plan was forthcoming from the liquor store about how they would operate, and it seemed to be appropriate for that particular use for a temporary period of time. When I also received a letter from the owner of the building who wanted to, for a number of businesses, make it open. And the sanitation plan was basically having the benefit of one porta potty that was already there and then moving the other one to a flat surface so there'd be a second one. I did not think that that was in cooperation with the owners or that it was sufficient to address the needs. When I revisited the case yesterday so that I could provide you with the most current information today, there are several key findings. The first one is that no permit has been pulled to repair the sewer right now. There's been at least one contractor out looking at it. There is a letter in your record from a contractor. Again, no permit has been pulled and certainly no permit has been finalized, and the water is not back on at the site. Those conditions tell me that a temporary allowance for a business to continue to operate is no longer appropriate. There has to be a period of time that you can no longer operate without basic sewer and water. And I think that we are in agreement that 6 weeks, which is where we're at now, is definitely that place. So I stand here saying I would recommend that all the businesses and the mosque remain closed and not operational until permits are final reestablishing sewer service and reestablishing water service for the building. I can answer any questions that you have right now, or wait until you do.
I have a couple questions. Just you said there's no permits pulled. Is there any 6 weeks is an incredibly long time to have for a property owner to have their tenants not have sanitary sewer and water.
Right.
What's the holdup with why isn't this repair being done? And also, I guess my second question is, if this permit were to be pulled today, how long would it take to complete this project so these businesses could get back up and running?
The reported holdup from the owner was that he was having difficulties getting the services of a contractor in place. The Department of Public Works did provide a list of contractors that they use, and also explained a nice program that's available that if the private sewer problem exists between the footprint of the building and the sewer line in the street, that the city can assist with financing of that over a 20-year time horizon if 3 bids are sought and the best one is taken. So if it's a split job, part of the job is in the building and part of the job is between the footprint and the street, there is help, and that was explained. So the reasoning, again, was the owner said he's having trouble finding a contractor. The second question you had, I'm afraid I lost track of.
How long would it take to do this?
Richard Akabina from the Department of Public Works indicated for similar cases, he's seen them done as quickly as a single day.
Okay.
But again, that's not opening up the ground and knowing for sure what you're looking at. Anytime, what you're dealing with is invisible, I would say.
But more than likely, it's not a 1 month or 2 month or 3
Right.
month job. Okay.
I should cover one more thing, actually, before I turn it over for testimony. And that is a question that came up repeatedly in the legislative hearing process was, what can the city do? What is the city's role in this kind of a situation? And quite obviously, what's in front of you right now is the city stepping in to provide a determination that these are unsafe, unsanitary circumstances for people to live and work in. City makes that determination, city condemns. The second thing the city does is to issue permits and review the work to make sure that it's safe to reopen. So there's another sort of enforcement component to it. As I just mentioned, the city has the ability to assist in financing if the sewer work is occurring between the building and the street. And lastly, the Department of Planning and Economic Development can provide assistance to individual businesses on a case-by-case basis based on what their needs are and their situation is. So, and I know that they have been alerted and trying to reach out to folks as well. So that was something that came up a couple times, so I did want to make a statement on that.
Okay. Any other questions from Ms. Mormond? Okay. And so it does sound to me that what's in front of us right now is the matter of getting the problem resolved for the public health reasons, obviously, and that there are supports waiting at the ready when the businesses are.
Yeah, the recommendation is quite simple. It's simply to deny the appeal.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So we're going to have a public hearing. I think first we'd like to hear from the business owner, and then we'll reset the clock in here from the building owner. Thanks for that correction. First, the appellant, and then we can hear from some of the business owners and mosque leadership that wish to testify. But at our public hearing, just do want to remind people that it's 5 minutes total, so you'll have to kind of make a strategy on how you want to spend that time. So why don't we hear first from the property owner? And again, if you can just start out with an introduction and where you live.
My name is Narayan Agrawal, and I live in New Brighton, Minnesota. And I understand this problem going on, and I have been very seriously handling this problem from day first. The contractor came out on the first day after the problem happened was Mr. Rooter, and he came out, he tried to clean the sewer line, he could not clean the sewer line, and he walked out from the job. And he did not report to me, and it was on Saturday. I called him, he said, well, this job is too big for me, I cannot do it. Then I called somebody else, is Alto Sewer, who used to come and do the sewer cleaning. He gave me a name of ASAP Underground, which is part of that list on the city provided. They came out, they dug the hole, they pulled the permit, and after doing the job for a week, they walked out. They said that they cannot do anything because it's just not in their scope and it's too big. Since then, I have called every contractor in the list city provided, all the contractors from top to bottom. Either they are too busy or they are not interested in because it's too big for them. I have called every contractors you can name, and nobody is willing to help me. I have been trying every day. Every tenant can see me that I am bringing contractors in a day, 2 or 3 contractors. They are looking at the job, walking away. Mr. Rooter came out. They said that they will give me the price. After 2 weeks, they denied. They said that my regional office said that this job they cannot handle because there are too much complication because of the fuel line. There is a petrol gas station. I have been calling everybody, and nobody is willing to help. And not a single day I have been sleeping properly. I have not left any stone unturned. Anybody, and I have begged, I have cried. I said, please help me. I was not looking for the money, I was looking for the help. Nobody came forward. I'm still asking city, if city can do this problem solved, I'm willing to pay the city. Find me the contractor. That's the problem I'm having. I'm not getting all the contractors, those good contractors, they are so busy, they don't have time until 2020. How can I get this job done? It's not me that I'm not doing anything, it's I'm not finding the contractor.
Thank you.
You know, and then I found a contractor who is not licensed in the city of St. Paul, but he is going under a master plumber because that's the only one I can find. And he said, and I have emailed the letter he sent me yesterday that he is going to pull the permit. I was hoping that he will pull the permit today, but I talked to him. He was busy. He is going to pull the permit tomorrow. And his name is Bruce Nelson Plumbing. He is going to pull the permit tomorrow. And hopefully he will start the job Monday. The idea is to bring the new water line, sewer line outside the building and connect with the existing service. That's the plan. But meanwhile, my request is that business has already lost a lot of customers. It's going to take some time. You know, even though I'm trying every day, I never thought that it's going to take that long. But I'm not able to find anybody. That guy said that he will start digging the ground and everything. He has already called the utility locating service. They have put all the marking, everything on the parking lot. He's going to dig the ground and then put the new water and sewer line. And hopefully, once he starts, it should take maybe more, at the most 1 week to get everything up and running. But meanwhile, the customers are gone. If we keep closing these stores, then the customer will be gone away further. At least that can help some businesses, which they don't need running water all the time. And that's my request. It's not for me, I'm looking for the businesses owners. So if you can help me, at least some business owners can open their business, that will be helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Prince, did you have a question?
I have a couple of questions for Mr. Agrawal. One is that you claimed that the contractor who dug the hole had pulled a permit. Are you aware of any permits being pulled, Ms. Mormond?
There's 2 outstanding plumbing permits, and I can pull them up and
From
you.
the past month?
From the beginning of August. One was to repair 2 bathrooms, and there was another one. Neither one have been finalized or had any rough-in inspection or anything. So I'll pull up that detail for you and give you a report in a moment.
Okay. And Mr. Agrawal, I have a really hard time understanding that you would think, as the landlord of this building, that businesses that you are collecting rent from shouldn't have access to running water and restroom facilities. I mean, I do not understand that, so please explain why that is.
I have not collected rents. I am not charging rent for the month of August and September. Because I know
For either
that,
month?
Huh?
For either month?
Either month.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So I'm not charged because I know that I'm not providing service, so I'm not entitled for the rent.
It also is clear to me that once I got involved on August 29th, that Mr. Icobina from our sewer department contacted you and helped you find a contractor. So I can't for the life of me understand why you would not have contacted the city earlier.
ATT Underground is the one contractor, the other one NMB service. ATT Underground, I contacted him on August 11th. He gave me a price, and I said, go ahead and do it. He showed up on Monday morning for an hour, and he walked out. He sent me a text that I cannot do this job. I think you already have another contractor, let him work it. Whereas I told him that the other contractor has already walked out. So he walked out. Again, after talking to Richard gave me those 2 names, ATT Underground and MNB Service. Both called me over the weekend and saying that they will give me the price. ATT Underground, again, same person. He said that he will go and look at the price. Then he did not give me the price. I called several times. Then finally he called me on Friday. And he said that he will give me a price this Monday. On Monday morning, he sent me a text that he is not interested in. He will not give me the price. MNB Service, he gave me a price for $120,000 just to bring the line from Boulevard to outside the building, not doing the full job. Nothing to bring water line or connecting to the main line. Then I said that who is going to do that? He said that he will bring a plumber, the contractor, to give me the price on that. I have not seen the price yet. It's being big. I am just calling everybody. I have not asked that how much it's going to cost. Just I am asking that can you do it?
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Ms. Naker and then Mr. Tao have questions. If you could hold. Come back.
Just for you, sir, I'm just curious to understand. You said that you have a contractor now who has pulled permits. You're hoping he'll start work on Monday. Is that the farthest along that you've been so far? Like this, you feel like certain that this is the person who's going to do the work? The walkouts have happened before permits have been pulled and prior to getting to this stage.
Yes, it's not the same contractor who walked out. Right. It's a different contractor who walked out. But this contractor has never walked out. He has always been trying to help me. He has tried cleaning from inside, could not do it. Then we come up with this plan that inside is not the option, let's go from outside. That's when he came up with plan, and then he's diligently working on this to help me out. That's the only contractor is coming forward to help me.
So the problem that you described of trying to find a contractor is hopefully solved.
Exactly.
At this point.
Hopefully solved, yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Mr. Tao.
Thank you, Mr. Agrawal, for coming
Sure.
down here and testifying. I'm just curious, how long have you had this property?
Little over 10, 15 years.
15 years, 10, 15 years? How many other properties do you
That's the only
operate?
property I have.
This is the only one?
Yes.
Okay. So I have constituents who do business who are your tenants, and they tell me that, so I have not heard your side of the story, but they said that you asked for rent. And so I'm I'm just letting you know what I've heard from them, what they said to me. 15 years is 10, 15 years is a long time. You've had the experience to run this business, and it's a very busy facility. I just couldn't fathom that it took that long for you to get to this point, because there are folks, the tenants, that their business depends on you getting this repair so that they can put food on the table, right? And so I hope that going forward you would consider that these folks who are your tenant, their livelihoods depend on your accountability to them.
I agree with you, and this is something I did not anticipate. If I had known that problem, I could have taken the measures before. Once the problem happened, since then, every day I have been trying to find somebody. I have called several contractors. They said that they will call me back, but they never call me back. They don't pick up my call, and they are so busy. I talked to one, Mr. Walter. He's a water engineer. He's a father of my daughter's friend. And he came out, and he is dealing with the Valley Ridge company. He has a $3 million contract with Valley Ridge. And he asked Valley Ridge, can you do this work early? They are so busy, they cannot do that work early. And he has approached Valley Ridge to help me out. He's not even calling me back. This is such a small job for them, and they are so busy, they have no time. That's why I'm running into this problem. If the contractor was there, this problem could have been solved. If ATT Underground, when he came in August 11, if he could have done the job, this job would have been done a long time ago. He walked away. I begged him. He did not pick up my call.
Ms. Prince.
Mr. Agrawal, you had a condemnation of space on the lower level of that building in September of 2018. It was water problems. There's been water problems in the mosque. You have not been adequately maintaining the building. And I'll tell you another thing. Not only the livelihoods of these business owners, you are hurting these businesses, their ability to stay in business, their ability to, as Mr. Tao said, to keep food on the table. And you have not adequately maintained that facility for a long time. When we started working on cultural destination areas at the Department of Planning and Economic Development, we thought about, and we talked to businesses at Shamrock Center about making that a cultural destination area. I have about 400, there are about 400 families who live within walking distance of that center. They use it for religious gatherings, social gatherings. It's where they can walk to buy groceries and halal meats. It's a social center. And it is absolutely beyond belief that you have allowed that center to deteriorate as it has over the last month and a half. But I would wager from talking to one of your former tenants that this problem has been going on a lot longer than this. And I'm deeply disappointed. I mean, we were actually, in talking about making it a cultural destination center, we were looking at ways that we might be able to direct some public funds to the project to make facade improvements, to add seating areas, and it just shocks me the tens of thousands of dollars that you take from those business owners month after month in rent. And if Mr. Tao is right that you have continued to charge them rent for August and September, I'm going to be deeply disappointed, because what I just heard you say was that you're not charging rent since they have not had water.
Right. And then as far as the maintaining the property, that is not correct. Last year, I have put new parking lot on both front and back side, spent all that money. I have repaired the roof. Even though there's some, patches he did not repair properly, so we have some leaks, but we have spent money in the repairing the roof. So I'm maintaining, every time there is a problem, I always address the problem. I never let it go. This problem just happened all of a sudden, and if I found the contractor right away, this problem would not have escalated to this level. The problem is that finding the contractor.
Okay. So thank you. So now we will we'll reset our clock for 5 minutes and hear from members of the community. And I'm sure that there's lots of people who have a lot to say, but we have 5 minutes. So hopefully you have a plan to divide and conquer this very truncated amount of time. So, and again, same thing, if you can just let us know who you are and generally where you live. When you speak, if you could stand between the two microphones. You don't need to adjust them, just stand between them. Okay. Right in the middle. And then it'll pick up your voice beautifully. And it looks like we have some spokespeople, so great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, so like less than a minute a person. This is going to be rough.
Yeah, well, I won't be that long. Thanks, Chair. And my name is Omar Jamal. I live in St. Paul on Selby Avenue. Been there for the last 20 years. And we have also the lawyer for the business tenants over there. And there's something that always I used to ask myself, why immigrant businesses are flocking to Minneapolis? Why are they in huge number running across the river? And this is, to me, is a classic example. This problem, when the city comes to find out the issue, was August 29, around that time, like Council Prince said. And before that, a month, the problem was there, if not more, without water, without sanitation. And the owner knew it very well. And the thing is, every day there's a guy comes in there, claims he's a contractor, he looks around, we don't know what conversation between him and the owner, and he disappears. The other day, another guy shows up, the next day, another guy shows up, nothing gets done. And as of for now, at this moment, no permit has been pulled from the city. And to pull a permit is the easiest process to do. You go there, you pay $100, you fill a form out, and they give you a permit. Nothing has been done so far.
Yes, and that's 1 minute.
Yes, and you're the steward of the constituents of this city. And a lot of people have lost a lot of money, a lot of customers, business have been destroyed, lives have been destroyed. And I hope you will send a clear message to those people who act in a way that lead to this situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Patrick Boyle. I am the attorney for the business owners at McKnight Road. If you own a business at McKnight Road, stand up, please. Anyone who runs or owns a business at McKnight Road. There they are. Those are the people, not him, not him. These are the people affected by this. These are the people whose kids, they have to go home and explain why daddy and mommy didn't go to work that day. He doesn't have to do anything. And quite frankly, he's done exactly that. Nothing. He didn't even go to yesterday's hearing. He was given 1 week to do something about this. He didn't even grace everyone with his presence to show up and explain what he hadn't done. He's done nothing. Those are your constituents. Those are the people whose businesses are closed. Those are the people who have made $0 since August 2nd. So I would just echo what Mr. Jamal said and what Councilmember Prince said, which she really couldn't have said it better than I did, which is why I'm just kind of yelling right now. So thank you, Councilmember Prince. I would just echo what they said. This man needs to be held accountable. I understand completely the decisions that have been made recently about opening. I understand completely the decisions that have been made recently about condemnation. But this man needs to be held accountable for what he's done, and there needs to be steps taken immediately to get these people's businesses reopened and to get these people taken care of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And before you get started, I want to thank you for having the businesses that you are representing stand up, so we hear your voice as well by having you stand up and see who's in this room, so thank you for that. I also have forgotten to let people know that when you're done testifying, please sign in at the ledger on the side. That's for the public record, and we can make accounting of that. Okay, sorry to interrupt you, sir.
No, it's okay. Well, I'm pretty much, my name is Makan Shukar, and I live in Maplewood. and I represent a liquor store because it's part of the strip mall. Actually, I'm pretty much with all the business owner, but as for me situation, it is as a liquor store, we don't have a public restroom, and then we have a like a temporary porta potty on the side. And for us, I'm just kind of requesting in because we wouldn't need public restrooms and everything. If you can reopen and do the business, because I mean, I can't really afford a lot of, to lose because there's a lot of competition out there. You guys probably know, like, because right around us is a Cub liquor store. You guys probably know Total Wine and everything. So I'm just requesting in if I can reopen, then we can get our customer back in. And the main thing, because the tax is coming up on the 20th, so I can probably kind of take care of all those expenses and take care of all the taxes and everything. So,
Thank you.
So if you guys can take a look at it, I'd be really appreciate it.
Thank you. Be sure to sign in. I noticed people had just started getting in line, and we have about 1 minute and 27 seconds left. So I don't, sometimes it happens, the line just keeps getting bigger and, okay.
So you can just see the frustration that we have.
Yes.
My name is Kalpesh Patel. I own the Woodbury Cleaners, which I think we are the most impacted business there because we cannot do anything, and we were shut down from very first day. What I would like to see here is pretty much we are ready to file a bankrupt. It has been 6 weeks. We have been processing our clothes other side. What he come up with is he's saying, okay, you know what? You do your assembly there, and why can't you do your washing somewhere else? Right now we are paying almost $300 an hour at somebody else while using our own employee to do the processing. And we are employee working second shift. As you know, the dry cleaning gets a little harder. So we are losing people, we are losing business. We are not able to do same day services. We are not able to do next day services. So what we want to see is, we don't want to see anything here. Pretty much, he can open the building, but we want to find some help from city to see how we can survive. And that's what we're looking for.
Thank you. And it does sound like Ms. Prince has engaged with the business owners and can help connect you to those resources as well. Thank you. Come up, women.
Hi, my name is Amal. I'm the sister of the owner of Gure Deli. Her voice hurts a little, so she told me to speak on behalf of her. As many of you know, the restaurant has been closed for 6 weeks, and my family just want to let you guys know that we do a lot to help in the community. We're a family that restaurants, families come to after school. We have homework studies. We do a lot for the kids in the streets so that they're not on the streets. Many people depend on us to keep open. It's not just for us. We built a family there, and there's a countless amount of people that we know and have made our family as long as we have been open. We're just very fed up with the point of hearing we will take action, because at some point words run out and they have no meaning. And we want there to be actual action taken, because this affects us. We pay for school, we pay for our home, we pay for our medical care with this. And without this business, we don't have anything. We lose family, we lose money, we lose our home. So when you take this all into credit, we want you to take in our livelihood and the fact that not only are we depending on each other, but families are depending on us for keeping their kids off the streets. So yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Mormond.
There were 2 factual questions that Ms. Prince brought up, and the first had to do with, are there any permits that have been pulled and what's the situation? And a permit was pulled on August.
Just actually, let's, Ms. Prince, can you move to close the public hearing?
Oh, yeah, I move to close the public.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails. Sorry, Ms. Mormond.
The permit was pulled on August 7th. The contractor was Sept Underground. They filed a permit to, it was for an $8,000 job described as replacing 15 feet of line. And so there's been no action on that permit. It hasn't been withdrawn. There's been no inspection. So that would be the first contractor who is in abandoning it. With respect to a condemnation, there is a condemnation on the record from September of 2018. So of the facility Ms. Prince mentioned. So there are records on that.
From the same property?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Tolbert has a question for No, sir, we closed the public hearing, but thank you. We have a few questions from council members from Ms. Mormon.
So I have two questions. First, can you just be, in a concise way, what is the decision we have to make here today, or that we're limited to making today?
There is an appeal to allow the businesses to continue to operate and to basically grant an extension on the vacate date for certain businesses. My recommendation is to deny that appeal, which would mean that the building would need to continue to be vacated as ordered by the Department of Safety and Inspections on August 30th.
Okay, that's what I thought. And the second, obviously the property owner in this is the reason that this problem is here, and his actions are adherent, or his lack of actions are just disgraceful, quite frankly. Is there any way that we could put some sort of fine on him or do anything to stop his behavior or to punish him or to make sure other people don't do this? Do we have any tools in our toolbox to fine him?
Council President Brennan, Councilmember Tolbert, this is a commercial property, so you don't have quite as many tools in your toolbox as you would if this were a residential property and people were living there. The options the city has, I enumerated those earlier. There's 4 things basically that we can do. I think the balance of it would be the private dispute between the tenants and the property owner, from my conversation with the city attorney's office and my experience in this area.
Yeah. Well, this is just one of those situations where I wish we had that administrative citation tool to crack down on this property owner. So, I mean, what he's doing is absolutely terrible. And he's put us in a terrible situation because of his actions. And we have to balance public safety versus these great small businesses that are just trying to get by. So anyways, that's all I have to say.
Mr. Basuri.
Thank you. I was going to ask the same question about what can we do to the property owner. This is America. We are in one of the best countries, and we have the best systems to protect business owners, and the landlord and the owner of this building decides not to do anything. I can't imagine, as a business owner, for my daycare to be closed for 2 days and lose everything that I have at that daycare. I can't imagine 6 weeks of being closed and more for these business owners who have been closed for 6 weeks. What's happening to their family? What's happening to their mortgage? What's happening to their daily life? Can they afford to buy a meal tonight? Is the questions that I have. And I am very disappointed at what this building owner did to these families and the business owners. And I know Council Member Prince has some resources that she's trying to work on to help them and fix some of the problems they have. But again, I'm very disappointed with the building owner.
Ms. Prince?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say to all the businesses, and I feel really badly about this because most of you, I am gathering, are immigrants to our city, and as soon as you lost water and sanitary sewer, you had every right to call the city inspections department or my office or anybody at the city to say, we don't have water, we don't have sewer, and we need the city to get out here. Because I was at Safe Summer Nights at Highwood Hills on August 29th when this had been going on already for 4 weeks. And owners from the Shamrock Center had come to that event and said, will you please return with us to Shamrock Shopping Center and see what we are dealing with. So that was the first that I saw it. And I need all of you to know that we are here to work with you as businesses and to help you be successful and to serve you when you're being ill-treated by your landlord. So please, we're going to hand out business cards here before you leave so that you have that number handy and you can call us. Secondly, we are, through our Department of Planning and Economic Development, working on having business business assistant staff be available to you to help you find potential sites to relocate or other means to get through this tough period. So I will be in touch. You can call me to follow up on that, but I believe several of you have already heard from either Beth Ulrich, Austria Castillo, or Mark Sung from the Department of Planning and Economic Development. I also want to thank Richard Icobina, who's here from the Sewer Department, because Richard got involved right away and stayed attentive until it sounds like we may have found a contractor who's going to get this work done. In any event, we are going to be watching this night and day. Mr. Agrawal, your frustration is crocodile tears for me. I've heard a lot of bad landlords before, but I have never heard anything like this. And again, I'm going to be watching like a hawk because we have got to get these businesses back in business. And also, when I was outdoor knocking at the apartments at Afton View, the older women who walk to that center to buy their groceries are really at loose ends for how to get their needs met. So this is affecting the businesses and all of their customers in this very richly cultural neighborhood that relies on this center. So I will make a motion. I hear the liquor store and the tobacco store asking for us to make an exception. I just do not feel we can do that. Mr. Agrawal had an opportunity for those businesses to come forward over the past week and bring a sanitation plan. He did not do that, and I don't see how we can make any further exception for someone who has so consistently failed to keep up his end of the bargain. So with that, I'm going to move to deny the appeal, and that's my final statement.
Okay, so Ms. Prince moves to deny the appeal. Is there any final discussion on this? Mr. Tao.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you, Councilmember Prince, for your leadership on this. I just want to, my comment would be for Mr. Agrawal that, look, even in your own home, when you don't have your water working in your own home, your sewer is not working in your own home, how difficult that is for you and your family and your children. And this is the same thing that's happening to your tenants. And I hope that you'll have the heart to be fast and get this done so that your tenant can continue to do business, and that this should strengthen your relationship with your tenant. This should not be an opportunity for resentment, but for you to continue to build a strong bond and relationship so that this doesn't happen again.
Any further discussion on Ms. Prince's motion to deny the appeal? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 92, RLHRR 19-11, ordering the rehabilitation or raising removal of the structures at 489 Sherburne Avenue within 15 days after the March 27th, 2019 City Council public hearing.
Ms. Mormon.
Council President Brenmoen, this is a pretty straightforward situation. This case was originally in front of me at the end of February and in front of you at the end of March. It is an unfortunate case. You can look at the house here, and I have a photo up. It is a cute little house in Frogtown at 49 Sherburne, which belies some of the very serious problems that the building has, including with the roof, including with the water line being broken under the house, including some significant electrical issues and so on. It is a house that merits a Category 3 status. The owner of the property, after it was condemned about 2 years ago for many hoarding and unsanitary issues going on inside the house, became homeless and has been living basically on the Green Line. The neighborhood, the Frogtown Neighborhood Association and Historic St. Paul stepped in early and showed up to the legislative hearing saying, we're looking for the owner. His sister lives in Frogtown, and we would like to help. They did find him, and we did end up being able to get him an attorney from Southern Minnesota Regional Legal Services. It's been very, very difficult managing communication with the owner of this property. We, as a city, actually, and this is a singular instance, I asked the Department of Safety and Inspections to waive the code compliance inspection fee, which they did. The county's Department of Public Health cleaned out the house, provided dumpsters and so on. So there's been a lot of community effort. Unfortunately, Mr. Stuff, the owner, has kind of dropped out of communication for months now and hasn't been communicating with his attorney, hasn't been working with us. There are two proposals right now that I'm aware of, one from Safe City, where they would be willing to do the rehabilitation on this house, and another from the neighbor who would like to acquire and do the rehabilitation on this house. Ms. Laura Orr from Southern Minnesota Regional Legal Services is here today to ask for additional time. She has been able to get a hold of the owner today and had a couple of conversations. Given the unusual characteristics of this case, I would ask for you to refer the matter back to legislative hearing on October 10th and to City Council public hearing on October 25th. However, I've had this in legislative hearing 10 times at this point, and there does need to be an end game, and that's why I'm giving you a full staff report right now, that 10 times is an awful lot of legislative hearings to be struggling with getting this thing moving with so much effort. So thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Mormon? Mr. Tell.
Ms. Mormon, does the owner have a caseworker or someone from the county working with him as well?
That I will defer to his attorney to talk to about.
Okay, so there's someone here to testify on this matter, or you're just making the recommendation? Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to this item?
Good afternoon. My name is Laura Orr. As Ms. Mormon introduced, I'm an attorney with Southern Minnesota Regional Legal Services. I'm an attorney with our Legal Advocacy for Older People, which is funded through the Metropolitan Area Agency on Aging and funded under the Federal Older Americans Act. Ms. Mormon summarized the circumstances quite well, addressing Councilmember Tao's question. Mr. Stuff has had a number of individuals trying to engage and help him in this situation. He's an individual who is in good physical well-being and is 74 years old, but the difficulty of maintaining contact with him has been the reason for 10 legislative hearings before now. I feel optimistic at this point after a period of 2 months of no contact with Mr. Stuff, because I called him not once but twice today, and he answered on both occasions. I did have a very candid conversation about the necessary for him to stay in contact, for me to be able to do my job as an advocate, but also to address two prospective purchase in arrangements that are available. As Ms. Mormon addressed, there is an organization, Safe City Project, who has expressed interest in entering a purchase agreement and contract for deed to rehabilitate the property. Another individual, who is the next door neighbor, has expressed interest in rehabilitating and purchasing the property as well. Both purchasers are part of the community. The executive director of the organization that has offered the purchase agreement lives only a few houses away. So under the circumstances, it would really be in the interest of the community to grant an extension for more time, for resources to be rallied around Mr. Stuff, because only Mr. Stuff at this point has the authority as the property owner to enter an agreement for the rehabilitation. So if the goal being voiced by the community is, let's see this cute house get fixed up, there is potential behind giving 4 weeks additional time.
Mr. Tao.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very concerning. So, are you at the table?
Yes.
Representing during these negotiating with the other neighborhood organization?
And that's where I'll acknowledge in the electronic age, the table is definitely different in appearance. I have had routine email correspondence with the Safe City project related to purchase agreements and contract for deed details. And the details of that prospective arrangement got to a point of awaiting signature before I lost contact with Mr. Stuff for, it was actually July 11th had been the last date I heard from him until today. He was unable to be at today's hearing because he has been working throughout the summer in a construction type job, but he did reiterate his interest in entering a purchase agreement. He hasn't closed the door on the possibility of a purchase agreement with Safe City Project, which has presented more documentation at this point in time, but his next door neighbor has made an offer higher in dollar value. I've been attempting to make contact with the neighbor who has reportedly made this offer twice the value of the other property. However, I have not received a response from that neighbor at this time. Mr. Stuff has verified that if details with this other offer do not come together, he would be interested in moving forward with the organization that, again, has had more details in their proposal for purchasing the property.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that this is like the property, it's a public health issue for the homeowner and the neighbors?
Well, at this point, it is a Category 3 vacant building. It does not have a certificate of occupancy. So Mr. Stuff, under those conditions, is not to be living there. That is why he's been living on the Green Line light rail, excuse me. So when there's that question of immediate concerns about public health, the city ordinances on their own have functioned to say nobody should be in that property at this time.
Mm-hmm. So what do you recommend?
I recommend that the council adopt Ms. Moorman's recommendation as voiced moments ago related to granting and returning this matter to legislative hearings with a legislative hearing before Ms. Moorman on October 10th.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Naker.
Thank you. As a further follow-up to that, though, and I appreciate the work that you're doing and the difficulty of establishing and maintaining contact, and that there seem to be offers sort of tantalizingly close that we would prefer to raising the building. But also to Ms. Moorman's point that we at some point need a Fisher Cut Bait moment. When would you say that should be? Is that the October 10th meeting? Are we going to be 10 legislative hearings after that, still talking about this? Because at some point we do need to make a decision, and I feel like you're in a really good position to help advise us on that.
And that's where I need to be clear about my role as an advocate. I'm a voice for Mr. Stuff. As his voice into these proceedings, I'm advocating that he be allowed the time necessary to be able to to sell the home and to make an arrangement to render it habitable. Like many homeowners advancing in age, he perceived his home as his nest egg, and any arrangement that can allow him to walk away from the situation with some of that intact is desired. So going back to your question, what would I consider the endpoint? It wouldn't be in Mr. Stuff's interest for me to identify an endpoint, but I do consider 4 weeks reasonable.
Thanks.
Any more questions? Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Mr. Tao moves to close the public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails. Mr. Tao.
Motion to move the recommendation of him, officer.
There's been a motion. Does anyone have discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted.
Ms. Moorman.
I am not aware of anyone who's here to testify in another legislative hearing item.
All right. So we will, given that information, we will handle the balance of the legislative hearing consent agenda. If you're here for items number 27 through 124, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to an item on this list? Now's your opportunity. Come on up.
What item? What item?
Item.
Mr. Lane would like to speak to two assessment roles that are in front of you. Those are items number 113 and 123. Both of these assessment roles are for the collection of delinquent garbage bills in the first quarter of 2019.
113 and 123?
Yes, both assessment roles, both from the first quarter of 2019.
Okay.
Item number 113, RLH AR 19-74, ratifying the assessment for the city's cost of providing collection of delinquent garbage bills for services during January to March 2019.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to this item?
Yes, I'm Eric Lane. Excuse my voice, I do have a tremor, so I'll do the best to get over that. I have got a written letter here that I did email to the council, so I would like to pass that in paper. I have 4 properties that are included in these 2 items, so hopefully you'll give me, I'll try not to fill up all the time, but if I can have 4 properties worth. First, a little bit of perspective. This morning, 18 years ago, at about 8:45, I was called to look at the television because the Twin Towers in New York were being hit by airplanes. And about 38 years before that, in November of 1963, I was in 5th hour as a sophomore in high school, the afternoon that President Kennedy was gunned down. So I've got 2 enormous issues that to me are much more important, much more world-shaking than trash. But I'm here today to talk about trash, which seems to be a St. Paul issue. And I wish it wasn't, but it is. So as all of you have probably heard more than you need to, more than you want to, is the trash issue in St. Paul is a big problem. Just of my 4 buildings, I have not paid the bills, not because I cannot, but because people are not using, we don't use enough, we don't have enough trash to fill the carts that we are required to pay for. And so I'm a protester. One of the things that I'm protesting, just today, we talked to Republic Services. They serviced 2 of our buildings side by side. About 3 weeks ago, they sent us a bill for payments from way back in October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, that they had missed. And so having already talked to the city, passed bills to the city of St. Paul for 4th quarter of last year, suddenly they're catching up. And they're doing it again for the 1st quarter, which is why I'm here today. They are doing it for the 2nd quarter. I'll be back for that probably in 3 months. These contractors have not got their billing issues straight. And so anyway, today I would just like to summarize a highlight of my written communication. I'll leave most of the points in there. Trash collection fees and charges that accrued after November 14th of 2018, in my opinion, have been and continue to be billed and enforced in error. Customers who are forced to pay for service they do not want and should receive refunds and possibly compensation. I shouldn't have to pay for carts that were accruing charges after the city council found the petition of which I was a person who gathered signatures. Section 8.05 of the city charter requires that any ordinance upon which a petition is filed shall be suspended in its operation as soon as the petition is found sufficient. If the ordinance is not thereafter entirely repealed, it shall be placed on the ballot at the next election. On November 14th of 2018, Resolution 18-1922 was adopted, finding the petition for a referendum of Ordinance 18-39 is legally sufficient. However, in an attempt of what I would say bypass the charter's long-standing requirements, the City Council refused to suspend Ordinance 1839 and refused to place Ordinance 1839 on the ballot, claiming, as it turns out in error, that the subject matter of the petition is preempted by Minnesota statutes 443.28 and 1158.94. They're claiming it's an unconstitutional interference with the agreement between the city and the consortium, and it conflicts with state public policy. On August 22nd, the Minnesota Supreme Court overruled that city's claim and decided that the petition for the referendum would not conflict with state law governing municipal waste collection and would not unconstitutionally impair the city's contract with waste haulers. Therefore, the referendum is going to be on the ballot, and I believe that customers should receive refunds, not property tax assessments. Today, we're facing property tax assessment. My request to all of you is to please lay over or cancel and or withdraw at least my two bigger items are LHAR 19-74 and RLHAR 19-86, and all other assessments with the city's cost of providing collection of delinquent garbage bills for services during January to March 2019. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone here on this public hearing? All right, I would move to close the public hearing. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion prevails. And I guess I would just say that on this item, I've heard Mr. Lean say repeatedly that trash is a big problem in St. Paul, and while I appreciate your testimony and I appreciate the respectfulness with which you deliver your testimony, Mr. Lean, that I think that it is a program that is actually working very well. It's reducing truck traffic, noise pollution, and also what previously are various rates where people paid way too much or paid deals that they were getting on the backs of our non-English speaking residents. And we also had a lack of compliance across the city. So I don't think trash is a big problem. I think that the new program is something that's working well. I do agree that the contract could use some massaging, and I think all of my colleagues have committed to continuing to work on things like getting shared service, perhaps looking at an opt-out, figuring out ways for duplex, triplexes, and fourplexes to combine service, and those are things that are within the program, not throwing the program out with the bathwater. So while I appreciate what you have to say, I'm not interested in withdrawing these. We're going to move ahead, and again, as you mentioned, there is a referendum in front of us and a Supreme Court decision that we'll hear from, but I just don't want to let it stand that this trash program is just a big problem, because I hear from a lot of people that for them it's an improvement. So there's more than one side to that issue. Ms. Prince.
Yeah, and I too appreciate Mr. Lane coming down and his reasoning on this and his passion for this, and I believe many of us share the concern about the inability of 2 to 4 unit buildings to have a sharing relationship. So I'm there with you. I do want to say that having received your memo making a number of arguments that I felt that you had raised some really good arguments, and I did refer those to our legal counsel, and I did meet with her about those, and based on advice of counsel, I am going to vote to uphold the assessment, but I do want you to know that I appreciate the work you do and the fact that we're not always right. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? My motion is to ratify the assessment, so if any further discussion on that motion. Okay, and this is on number 113 that was read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed, the resolution is adopted.
And again, to item 123, I move to ratify the assessments. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed, the resolution is adopted.
All right, now we will have a public hearing on the balance of the legislative hearing agenda items through 23 to 124. Is there anyone else here to testify on an item? Seeing none, Ms. Prince moves to close the public hearings and approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion prevails.
7 in favor, no one opposed, the public hearing is closed and the consent agenda is adopted as amended.
And is there anything else to come before us today? All right, seeing none, we're adjourned. Bye.